The Village, so many things. Guilt into not wanting to fight. The Village, The Happening. I'm thinking of M. Night Shyamalan right now, for the moment, in this Pink Cloud Radio. All the people against doing the same, what all do against protesters. Violence cannot change on own, so bends on those who are willing to. Guilty out because guilting it is bad. You know, you guilt people out of doing things like, oh, you know, you don't want to get violent, you don't want to do protest, you know, this guilting out of things, because when you guilt people out of something, less and less pressure on you to change. You know, oh God, I don't have to change anymore. So it's just the old thing, like, you know, at work when you see people working hard and you're a lazy kind of person, you obviously are going to take them down as much as you can. You're going to go to the manager, you're going to speak up about it, you're going to let fly what may, because you don't want to see people doing better work than you because it makes you look bad. So when you guilt people out of something like The Village was about, pretty much, being in control and power, The Happening, same story, you know, people guilting themselves out of taking full responsibility. But the fact is, what nature does back to you, as in The Happening, or what happens in The Village, that's why The Village was criticized so much, because it shows the truth. Unlike Sixth Sense or some other bullshit what people were interested in because, oh, ghosts, you know, that's why. That piqued their interest. But outside of that, nothing else, you know, because there were other ghost movies before that didn't get much publicity as The Sixth Sense, and The Sixth Sense didn't get that much, and yet people were priming for it. And this is why most of Shyamalan's other movies aren't popular, because there's no beginning, middle, and end like The Sixth Sense was so coddled and caged for you to sip on. Unlike The Village, where it shows the claustrophobia, fear, that's in your head. Because people say fear is a healthy thing. No, it's not. Being scared is healthy. Fear is not healthy. Being scared and afraid is damn healthy, as the Buddhists say. Because once you're scared, you still go for it. You still do something. But when you have fear, you don't do anything. You might as well have assurances from other people. You might as well not even step out of the house. You might as well not even try to get a job. Because at that point, you're not going to have any security on what you do alone. Fear does that to people. It makes people so ambitious to do nothing. That's the problem with fear. You know, oh, it's healthy to fear. No, it's not. It's healthy to be scared. Yes, you're damn right it is healthy to be scared. But being scared or afraid is completely different than having fear. Because at least with scared and afraid, you can still walk up and do something. And you probably will. Most of the time, if you're just scared and afraid, you go for it. Fear is not, you don't have that option to go forward and keep doing it. You know, like our country after 9/11. Oh yes, of course, you know. We're going to put in the Patriot Act, which takes away most of our freedoms. And then we're going to put in the NDAA 10 years, 11 years later, just for safekeeping, so that we could put anybody in jail that says anything wrong about our country, does anything wrong with our country. Well, of course, when you define what's wrong and right, how can you say you have a free society if you have to define what's wrong and right? Overseer, just like officer, pretty much. Oh, well, remember the slaves? Overseer. Oh, officer. They sound pretty much similar to me. And this is why you guilt somebody into not wanting to fight. You know, oh, you know, you gotta be a man of action. You have to fight. But then why are you guilting me to not fight? If you want me to fight, you have to go 100%. No contradictions. If you want me to fight, you have to show you want to fight. You want me to fight. Or do you want me to do it by myself? Oh, well, let's see if Marcel can get it on his own. Then don't guilt me out of it. If you want me to do it on my own, you can't guilt me out of it. You completely have to absorb what I'm giving. Because if it's not enough to fight the other person off, then maybe I'm not enough for you. Boom. Cancel it. Because you've now just ordered what you thought about me. Just like when somebody says, oh, you know, it's a sex organ, stuff like that. When a person gets on about the physical appearance and says, oh, you know, it's about penis sizes, nipples, then if it's about that, the first thought in your, if the first thought in your mind is, oh, this guy watches porn online or watches porn videos, then I can pretty much negotiate why you would break up with me because of those definitions. Oh, well, let's see what kind of penis he has. Oh, wait, gotta cancel that right here. It's better off than go away. You know, you don't need me clearly because my physical appearance is more important than what is right here in front of you with me talking to you. As such, that's the critical point. Because if I did that, well, then nobody would be my friend. Nobody I'd want to talk to because I wouldn't agree with anybody's physical appearance if I had to. But I don't have to, and I don't want to. Inside my own brain, there's no guilting other people out of doing something. There is a thought on it and saying this and that the other, but to be honest, it matters what you want. If you want something hard, you're going to base it on the leash. If you want something easy, then you don't need to spend time with a lot of people. Just spend time with one person, make it easy on yourself. There you go. You got nothing to worry about. Like M. Night Shyamalan, there you go. The Happening was a great example of that because it showed that kind of contradictoriness within society. People want to see that fear. People want to see the action and inaction of people. But once you do, well, why aren't you a man of action? Why aren't you a person of action? Well, but I thought you liked all this blood. What do you like more? Pick one. Because you're not going to get both. And if you want both, it's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen on your side unless you totally like any side doing that man of action bullshit. Call it what you like. This is what M. Night Shyamalan is showing. A man of action? Well, what is a man of action? Well, what is freedom to you? You have to define almost everything to get back to the man of action plot. To show what M. Night Shyamalan did in The Village, that's why it was so critically panned. Because, oh no, it's just a regular story of people fighting rebellion. There's nothing special about this movie. Well, because you don't think of those special things. You don't think about how you live in society, and you don't want to envision how you live in the society. So, I'll just put a bad review on that, like Roger Ebert, and go to the next one. That's the easy way to go. Guilt yourself out of having to guilt yourself in to doing something. Because a lot of people say like, oh, you have to take responsibility for what's happening to the world right now. No, we don't. The world, the earth, nature still runs its course. If it didn't, there would be no plants at all. This earth would be dead by now. If we were completely isolated to think that we have to be responsible for the earth, then the earth would have been dead and we would have been dead. We can't be responsible for something that we can't take care of. In complete disorder, how are we supposed to take care of an earth that's bigger than all of us? 7 billion people? That would fit almost 2 or 3 states in America. That's it. If you concentrated everybody. That's why a lot of people say it's overpopulation. Well, it's overpopulation because how people think, not because of there being so-called so many people. There's only so many people that are stupid that are alive, that don't want to take care of other people, that don't care about other people, that are harmful to other people. Like you don't have to worry about a dog going to another dog and saying, that dog is harmful to me. He doesn't like my kind of dog. The dog that I am. Another dog doesn't have to worry about that. Territory, yes. Those kind of things, yes. But that's completely different than using race and all these other things that have been claustrophobically entrenched in our hearts since the day we were born. It must be true. It must be true because we've learned it in these movies, in this whole Satisfactory Life. We've learned all this stuff, so it must be true about the people around the world. And as my grandma said, there wasn't so many people in the Middle East before, back in the early 1900s. Well, because we didn't concentrate on the Middle East before. How would we know how many people live there? We don't even look at them. Oh well, there's people over there, but maybe not as many as there are now. Actually, there are probably more. Most of them are dead now. So, you guilt me out of a fight, you're out of my life. No guilting me in or out. I don't need to guilt you into thinking the same way I do. If you want to talk about it, then totally I agree. I love talking about it. It's something that I intrinsically love. But just like the whole Israeli-Palestinian thing, the past of Hitler's history, Nazis and connections with the powers that be, with a hand in every pot. The last thing you need is an honest truth. But if corruption has built us, it maybe took a long road wrong. I wouldn't be surprised. Just looking at what happened at society back then, we already had a hand in the pot with Hitler, as with George W. Sr. way back when. Was selling stuff to him back then. So we got the whip hand in every pot. So we helped create these people that are so-called dictators, bad people. We helped create them, just like in Chile on September 11th, 1973, with what occurred. We put the guy in power that was there at that point. So it made it easy on us. Well, as long as we put people in power that turn out to be bad, that we somehow had a position in putting in there, it's still okay to kill all those numerous people because they agreed with that person that we put in. So obviously, you don't be responsible for what you did. You just be responsible for the people that you kill. As long as they're labeled Nazis, as long as they're labeled this, that, the other, names everywhere, you could kill them like nothing. Because they're just a label. They're not a human at that point. You've now created a label for them. Makes it easier on you. Makes it easy for you. Israel, Palestine, they're just names. Don't worry about it. We just have a big hand in the pot with Israel. So, of course, we're going to show Hamas, which we created again. Hamas and Mossad, which we both created. So, we put these two in power that would look like they're going against each other. But that's the whole point. If Palestinians had their right to pick who they wanted in power, which they didn't, it shows that what Hamas is doing is not a representation of the Palestinians. It's a representation of who put them in power. Who gave them the weapons? Well, guess who has the most arms deals around the world? Number one. But again, the number one sign in this whole thing is not about blaming a government. A government is superficial to the real powers. It's just superficial. It's happened before in history. So why would it stop now? Corruption dies? I didn't know that. You have to be pretty gullible if you think corruption dies completely. Because if it's still going on, that means it's not just rotating. Its cycle has turned so much, you don't want to see it anymore. I don't need to look at that. I'll just wait for our government to do something about it. Well, but that's the thing. The corruption that's happening is not part of our government. It's above our government. They can't do anything about it, like the Federal Reserve Bank, not controlled by our country. Which means that what the Federal Reserve Bank wants to do, can do it. They can do whatever they fucking want. Because they're not controlled by the United States laws and rules and regulations. So we don't go to them and say, well, you can't do that there. Nope, they do that to us. They call them their debt, like in 1929 when they called them their debt and the Great Depression started. They called them their debt. Imagine if they call them their debt again. We're dead. We got nothing left. You know, we're a respirator waiting for no oxygen. There's going to be no oxygen left. And that's why people blame us. You know, oh God, it's humans. You know, overpopulation is the problem. No, it's not. It's you being so greedy. That's the problem. It's you being so greedy. There's nothing above that can settle and make everybody happy. You know, that can make everybody feel comfortable in living in life. No. There's nothing above greed that's going to fix our lives. You know, so that's why people say like, oh, you shouldn't put down on the rich. Well, but that's the thing. They're not doing anything. They're putting the spoils in the same companies and industries that I failed us before. The educational institutions, which are taking away our money already. So if George Lucas puts his money towards education has already showed what they're going to do to us. The tuition hikes and everything. Why would you give the money to the educational system when they're already doing that? They're already showing how lamp-tailed they are to pull back what they want. So to say that he's going to give it to the educational system when it already showed its failure with us, why would you give it to them? Give it to individual people. Let's see what happens there. You know? And that's why it's so easy to just blame these things on people that have controlled. They must know how to do things. They know how to control people. You know, that's what a lot of people say. Like, you know, looking back at Mussolini and Hitler, it wasn't accepted. But now it's okay, you know, oh, well, you know, he knows how to control people, get them behind him, that kind of stuff. That looks good. Until it gets to that level. But it already has gotten to that level, and it's still okay because, you know, it's a nice picture that's manufactured to make it look good. Same thing with Hitler, though. And Hitler was voted in democratically. He wasn't voted in dictatorly. He was voted in democratically because he had promised the same things as many presidents in our country have. So to say that we've already benefited from something that by destroying what other things there were, how do we know? How do we know what kind of future all these other societies and civilizations would have had? We don't know. We don't know what would have happened outside of what they already were planning. We have no idea. But we're basing it on what they were planning right there. Not our country, of course, because we've already done our part. Destroying the Native Americans, we've done our part. It's okay. You know? Anything else we do is small in comparison. But we don't need to worry about that even. We just make the winner's story the one that everybody sees first. We gotta make sure we blend this into the mind of the kids because we don't want them to get the wrong idea about us. Because we want them behind us. We want them to be able to vote Democratic, Republican, the words that we made up. Call it what you like. Guilt into defending all actions of a people, even if it's wrong. Oh, that's one of my favorites. You know, even if it's wrong, people love defending people. And they'll do it to the point of guilting you. Oh, I guilt you because I don't like the way you think about things, so I'm going to make you feel guilty about the way you feel. Because I want to defend these people to any point, any crux. Pretty much means that even if it's a like completely irrational argument that you can't even defend, that your defense of it shows that you can't even defend it, or shows at least that it's so unintelligent, like there's no intelligence in it at all, you'll still defend it because you didn't even think about it, you're just defending it. You know, it's like, no, that wouldn't happen, that wouldn't happen. Don't ruin my fantasy, don't ruin my fantasy. That's what a lot of people say. And it's not really about not ruining my fantasy. It's about what you rule over. Do you rule over anything, or do you just go to the park and have fun? I mean, that's fine too, because you have to do that. I do that in life. But to compromise how you feel about your own freedom, your own individuality, your own security, your own assurances because you want your fantasy, shows that you're not really ruling your own life. That's why a lot of people say anarchy is bad, that if people didn't have governments, they would fail. They would only fail if they didn't have their own assurances and security. You're damn right they would fail. But that should be enough. There are a lot of lions that fail in life because they weren't able to defend their cubs or anything. So they deserve it. But we don't. Oh no, because, we're more intelligent, we should be able to get along. Well, I don't know how many more civilizations you need to show that you can't in a government. Because if somebody wants power over you, and using their security and assurances over you, it means they're not using it for good. Nobody says, I'm going to defend you to the brim. That hasn't happened, and I've said that in my Marcello introduction here on YouTube. When will the majority, defend the minority? Never. There's never anything like that, because there's only some such compromise to say, well, I know you have a right to your view, but I think that's anti-American. Already you're showing your lucrative mind by saying that kind of stuff. By adding something else, you should only say, I don't agree with that, but I totally understand that you have your right to your view. Don't add your personal bias or comments in there. That's what a lot of people don't like, is when somebody asks a question without bias and wants to know an answer. Oh, no, I don't have an answer for that. Well, then, what kind of government can we have if we don't have an answer for our people? And that's the proof, It's like a movie I just saw. If you can't trust the world governments, who can you trust? Well, you can't trust anybody then. Because if the people on top have that kind of corruption and power and that greed, that ceiling is on everybody. It's not just on them. It's not on what they're feeling. They pass that on to the people around them. That's why a lot of people say, well, all you need to do is make money. You'll be okay. Well, that's the thing. If that's all you need to do, then what's the point of anything else? Why create other options in life if that's all you need? And that's why we're creating a sort of suffix one society where everything's bought up and there's only one company to go to buy things, because it makes things easier. Just like somebody else did. But it's happening like that. Even if we're going to say, no, it's not, we could live in it like nothing. Oh no, they're not going to make us do anything. You don't need to worry. You do it to yourself. Because that's the whole point. If we've created a society where people will hurt themselves, then they'll always defend anybody else. They'll always defend their government, because the only person they'll ever hurt is themselves. You give somebody a rope right now to hang themselves, they'll do it themselves. You don't need to do it to them. That's the whole point. Oh no, we're not doing anything wrong. They're killing themselves. Oh, of course not. But you've created an environment where it can happen, where somebody won't defend their own assurances and security on their own. And that's what makes it easy. Think about Black Friday fixer-upper is doing a thing irrationally, really over the top, when the people, having been doing the irrational for years, you built into them. Now, stomp it out of them. That's, I think of like Mark Dice, what he was doing on Black Friday the past week ago. Just look at it. Just because you say, well, think about it. Most people complain about our economy right now, but it's not controlled by us. Even our individual economy isn't controlled by us. That's why a lot of people say you got to save your money. Look at Susie Orman. Fuck Susie Orman. That's all I got to say to that, because no matter what, we don't control it. We don't control our economic value. Somebody else does. So to have that key to the switch of what an individual person can do, look at the RFID chips that are being punctured in people, and a lot of people have. So to have that kind of fruitfulness to say I could shut off your economic value like nothing, then it's not really economic value that we have individually. Then what Susie Orman says about grabbing your own and being your own, you can't. You don't have your own. You never had your own. That's why the dollar bill says, there you go. Read what it says on the dollar bill in general. You know that you don't own it. And it's just a reserve note. Has no value, really. It's just a piece of paper with no value. But as long as you get people to believe that it has value, they'll keep using it. That's the Black Friday fixer-upper. If you feel that there's something wrong with the economy, you probably shouldn't be going to it. You probably shouldn't be going to it at all. I think there's something wrong with the economy. It doesn't shut me down from going out, but it certainly shuts me down from a lot of different things. I won't be going to do anything immensive. I'd be doing things immensive only for me. In just a general attitude, like, oh, I have the money, I could get this. That's the way I feel. I don't use debt, I don't use any of that shit, because to me that's an excuse to want to get something just because. I want to get things because they're going to have an importance in my life. Oh, the music that I get and such like that. Weakness sometimes creates a moment for others to flirt and be with another. If you don't get rid of that weakness, I'm going to do this. That's what some people say. Like, if you don't get rid of your weakness, well, if you don't love me for my weaknesses, then why would you love me for my strengths? That's what I always say. And I've always wondered that. Like, people saying, you got to get rid of that weakness, Marcello. No, just get rid of me, You've made your choice right there by saying that. By putting that in front of me and saying you have to think like this, you might as well go away. You don't need me. Just get a mirror. That's what I always say about, if that's the kind of expectations you have, I understand expectations of us together. That's different. As a friend or anything else, in a relationship or something, but those are expectations we would have together, not ones you would have already on your own, that you're going to base on what you've already left, or what you are living in. Because that's different. You're not going to live in the same way if you're with me compared to how you live with your family, or compared to how you live with another friend, or your ex-boyfriend, or your ex, any exes that you've had. If you've already created this is how it has to be, then you're showing the failure of any relationship that will come. Because you don't accept the unknown. You don't want the unknown. You're showing what you want, and this is the defense you have to show it. Get rid of that weakness, Marcello. No, get rid of your weakness to say, that's my weakness. Maybe it's my strength. Maybe what you see as my weakness is my strength. And that's the problem. You're calling it a weakness, so obviously I can't be even with you as a friend, because you're calling what I have as a strength my weakness. You don't need me around then. You need somebody around that you see as a strength key. And yes, of course, that you accept their weaknesses too. But if you don't accept their weaknesses and you try to label them and say, get rid of that, if that's how you're going to do your entire life, then what's the point? What's the point of living if all you're going to do is keep on pushing that at people? Pushing buttons that don't make sense. If you push buttons to make somebody grow, that's different. But if you push buttons just because you don't like certain things about people, you might as well be a racist. You might as well be. Because at that point, you have no other cultural value. You don't have any value of individuals as people, as humans. You rather see them as a walking box, a walking robot that you could, flip at the switch of a dime. I know I make mistakes, but anybody makes mistakes. I would say I don't want to make that mistake anymore. That's what I'd say. Because I don't. I'll be honest there. I've looked at what people say, like, I know everyone makes mistakes, and anybody makes mistakes, but I don't want to make those mistakes anymore. That's all. I don't want to make those mistakes anymore. That's all. There's nothing else bigger than that. To me, that's the biggest man up anybody could do. That's the biggest thing a person can do to show their weakness. I don't want to make that mistake anymore. That's all. Flirting is a game of your type, or not your type. So when people say a relationship, marriage can withstand a little flirting, make sure it's from the other person. It's not from you, flirting. Because if it's not them, you're saying with what you're doing with the flirting, that the type you already have is not enough, or not your type at all. That's what flirting really is, when it comes down to what it really means. Oh, you're flirting with me. I don't even know what flirting is. I'll be honest, I don't. If somebody starts flirting with me, and they're telling me I'm flirting, well, let's see, you don't want to defend that you're flirting at all? Why not? If you're satisfied with what you got, flirting for showing the stand in your relationship is different. But if I individually have done my own flirting, I haven't, Because a lot of people say, one girl at work said, you gotta stop flirting. I said, I never flirted. I don't even know what flirting means. And she looked at me like, what? And I said, if I have flirted, it never worked. So clearly it's not flirting if it never works at all. If I've been like this for years. You're telling me I'm flirting now? No one ever told me that before. Even when I acted like this before, no one ever has. So if I've been flirting, it's never worked. And no one else has caught on it. And that's fine, I want to be myself. Obviously I want to be myself in a relationship just as much as outside of it. So that means that if somebody wants to be with me, they have to like that part of it. And say, you know what, this guy is not going to measure up or push anybody down or try to be somebody else. He's going to always be himself with the relationship, and that's what counts. That's why to me flirting is fine in the point of saying that you have to make sure that it's from the other person. You know, oh, they're flirting with me. But if you're hiding how you feel, or if you're trying to just say they're flirting with you but you've been flirting, then you're basically saying at that point that what you have isn't enough. It's not your type at all. And that's what I've noticed with flirting. Flirting can be a strength enhancer, but it can also be one of the worst things you could do, because it proves what you're hiding the most. And it means that you've already decided that there's something else better. You know, and that's where flirting really shows its overabundance of what it tries to say. And that's why when I say, like, there's no such thing as a free lunch, like, that's what I hear a lot, you know. So you say I'm not working when I'm on my break. There you go. That's what I was talking about earlier, too, about how people take advantage of you. Like right at the beginning with, you know, putting that guilt on other people to guilt them out of things, to guilt them out of how they act. Like if somebody's a hard worker, people who are not hard workers, which there are a lot more than those, they'll always try to guilt them out of working so hard. Oh no, don't work so hard, you have too much energy. Why are you guilting me out of that? It's my energy, it's not yours. Yes, you want this kind of energy. Maybe you should stop taking all your personal problems and bring them to work. Because a lot of people do that. Or a lot of people use the old cliche groups and say, we'll get along here, and then destroy anybody else that tries to work there too, that makes them look bad. Makes them look like they're not working hard enough. Well, it's not that person's fault for coming in. It's those other people's fault for living in those kind of scapes, living in those kind of landscapes, and thinking that we all have to be the same way, so then nobody would say anything. Well, if you want to be a robot, then I totally understand. But I'm not a robot, you know. I have a lot of energy, but that's because I'm a human. It means that I have a ton of energy, not because, oh, well, you know, you're just crazy, you're just weird. No, it's because I actually put on my mental energy for positivity, not for negativity, not for my own personal stresses in life. Because those things aren't going to get fixed if I just stress myself over it. And that's not even about like being an old soul or a new soul. It's how you defend how you feel. If you defend how you feel with strength, then you got no problems. If somebody else, well, I'm not saying I haven't defended myself with weakness too. Damn right I have. I defended myself with strength and weakness. But that's why I can defend myself. Because even in weakness, there it is. It's right there. It's been there the whole time, when I'm positive or when you're beating me down. It's right there, and it hasn't changed, even in my weakness. So, if there's no such thing as a free lunch, then the only free lunch I ever have is all the time. Because damn, I can live it. You know, with the bad people. You know, with the bad people who have, and bad is all accepted in general, to pull together and just set apart the good. Criticism and critical thought, critical, you know, arguments are all based in biased attempts to pull through a system that was built by the bad. So it's impossible to be good and build through this. You know, to say, we're going to build something good out of this. But it's already owned by greedy people. You know, when people say, like, oh, you shouldn't put down the rich. Well, I wouldn't put them up. I mean, when have they put me up? They haven't. And certain ones have, and I don't disrespect it. That's nice of them. But when, I mean, even when I say about what happened with George Lucas putting the money towards educational system, when educational system failed us already these past few years. The educational system has failed us since the year 2000, when they started putting tuition hikes in percentages a lot higher than what they got. So that means they took in more money when they had a ton to give us as students. There you go. They did that, of course, illegally, but they made it legal. You know, when you own everything, you can make anything legal. Even something that's illegal to us as individuals down here, you can make it legal for yourself. That's why you put down the rich. Not because, oh, there's a big ploy against the rich and poor, the classes. No, it's because you have more power to change laws. It's not because, oh, I'm against you because you're rich and you made money and you did your own thing. No, it's because you did your own thing illegally. You did your own thing by changing the laws for your benefit. I can't do that. Oh, well, if you can't be bad, then you can't live in this society. Well, then that proves that this isn't a free society. This is a free society for the people who do bad. This isn't a free society for people who are born in this society. And there's nowhere else to go, because you've now built the world the same way you wanted it, you creeps. And you're telling me, go somewhere else if you don't like it here. If you don't like it, leave it. There's nowhere else to go. You've destroyed every continent on the earth. to make it all led by bad people. And then you control every decision they make, so you make anybody look bad, and just name anybody that has Nazi or something else, and say, we're going to kill them all. And don't worry, they're labeled Nazi, they're labeled this or that, the other, they're okay to kill. They're not humans anymore. So once you already had that stake in the earth, you're telling me to leave this place? There's nowhere else to go. I could fly to Mars and it wouldn't be far enough. So if you're telling me to build through a system that's already this corrupted and bad, that's impossible. It's been built this way. So if your swag is basing off of what you did when you first started this country, the only thing you could do is build more in the same way. You can't build in a different direction and say, you know, we're going to change from being greedy to this. It doesn't happen. If American wants to, I always think about this, you know, people say like, oh, jobs with China and stuff. But if you want your jobs back, from China, they can't accept it from corps and banks. You know, you can't expect the corporations and banks to want to bring them back here. They're the ones who threw it over there. You got to do it on your own. There you go. And there have been small companies getting up here and there that have started creating things here in America again. I'm not saying that's the way you should do it. Honestly, if you want to fight the banks and corps to get those jobs back, you can do that too. You know, hey, let's get our jobs back. But that's the thing about it. They don't care if they see us die. You know, that's the whole point. That's why, to me, protest doesn't count for anything. Not because protest doesn't count at all, but if human value doesn't count, if nobody cares about humans, how are you supposed to change the mentality of that? By going out to protest? Because that's humans doing it. You know, it's not animals. I love to see animals hold a sign, you know. I love to see animals defend themselves, and they do all the time. And we're animals too in that way. But the thing is, we've been scapegoated to believe that we live in a society where we're better than animals, where we have a higher mind, when the way we react with each other a lot different than what an animal does. And that's the whole point of this. Like, hey, Marcello, let's do better here. Well, yeah, but are they doing better? Because, I mean, they own everything. So if we can do better, yes, that's great, and I would still try. But for me to have an acknowledgement of what they're doing and know exactly what they're doing in the whole scheme of things, they've already created the kind of mass hope, gnosis, the kind of hope that everybody else carries. Because they don't carry my hope. They don't say, you know, I like Marcello's hope. He carries better hope than anybody else. I'd love to hear that. But you got to be yourself. I wouldn't even say hope. I'd say, if you want hope, if you want change, you can't rely on hope. Throw hope in the trash can. If you want to change, you got to change. You got to change to be assured with yourself and security. You can't base your assurances or security on what controls you and what makes you move around. You have to acknowledge yourself. That's it. Not acknowledge what happened to you in your past. Forget that. Fuck that. That ain't gonna bring you bread and water. That's the whole point of this. Most people base their things off all the experiences they've had. But what are your experiences with yourself? I'd like to know that. That's an important one. Because that'll show exactly how you feel. Not just who you feel. Because who you feel around you in your life isn't going to change what you're doing in your life. A lot of people say the good guys are either gay or already taken. The truth is, the good guys, you don't want to take them. They're thought to be too good. Oh no, the admiration, come back again, stab you in the back. You know, that's why I don't admire anybody. I admire certain qualities, but I don't admire to the point of no return. Which is a lot of people do that. Because they've been so squashed by the intolerable negativity of the world, all they look at with admiration is the qualities that are good. So they'll basically employ the old strategy of, well, you can't have these bad qualities, or else no more admiration, nothing at all. Because that's what the steep line is. That's why people say they live on the edge. Yeah, everyone lives on the edge, because they live on the edge of accepting you or not accepting you at all, because you got bad there. Uh-oh, you have a little bad mark on you. Yeah, it's got black spots on me just as much as white spots, just as much as green, black, colorful. Every color, red, orange, yellow, everything, blue. You could throw any color in the rainbow inside of me, and I'll still say, yes, you got to accept all of it. But if I was going to be completely bad, you would have seen it. You wouldn't have waited this long to figure that out. That's the whole point of this. This is the fucking useless attempt to try to say all men are bad. They make it easy on themselves. The easy way out. Well, all the good guys are taken. Or gay. But the real truth is, you don't know to accept somebody who's good. Because once you accept one person that's good, well, then you kind of made it. You don't want to make it, you know. It matters how satisfied you want to be. You know, and that's the whole point of this. Do you want to be 100% satisfied, or are you just trying to say how you feel? Because that's what it comes down to. Do you want to be satisfied in your relationship? Or do you want to keep on going with the malarkey and saying, I want to just continue down the same path with the same wheel that's already broken and won't turn anymore? Because it's been turning for a long time, and it sure as hell failed so many more times, so it's not going to turn anymore. See, that's the one thing people don't understand, is that, yes, the bad may have so much power, but it doesn't mean you have to get the bad in your life. Yes, you may not have the complete successes that everybody else has because that you're not going to be bad. Oh, well, he's too good, though. I got some bad in me. So what? Everyone does. Even that too good for you has bad in him or her. So here you are throwing it in somebody's face who already is bad. And you're basically saying, well, they're bad, but, you know, they're not that bad. So it means that you have to find somebody who's more bad. You know, that's why people love abusive relationships a lot of times, because then they at least know their place. And know who they are, know who the other person is, and know how to blame all the other people. Because that's the one thing people know how to do, is blame other people. So the one thing they'll always do when they get in those bad relationships is blame all the men. Oh, well, they were, you know, if he doesn't defend me when I want him to, then, you know, it's not a good relationship. That's what most people think. But the whole point is, what about when he defends you all the time? With everybody? Is that important? Or is that, you know, oh no, he has to only defend me when I want him to. All the other things he better accept. But those bad things are the things you accept. They're not what he accepts. Just because that one person doesn't speak to you about it in the same way you speak to yourself, it means that you have to walk away from it yourself. You know, the wind doesn't blow, the waves don't blow without the wind coming through. You know, I honestly wish I was the wind that blew the waves for many people in my past, but it didn't work out. They didn't want those waves blown by my wind. So there's no characterization and nothing within that created a span for span of wings that wanted them to stay with me. And that's sad. But it's okay. You know, you're thought to be too good. Oh, yes, that's horrible in a relationship. You can't have a too good relationship, because then you're going to base it off of what you've seen in movies. Not true. And you shouldn't. Too much fear sogs the system and drives the feelings, emotions, sensitivities relating too largely to the fears around and described by others. And that's what I was talking about before too, is the idea of fear. Fear isn't healthy. No, it's not. Being afraid, being scared, completely healthy, because then you do it more. You want to step forward into it. Having fear destroys mystery. Having fear destroys your idea to want to step out anywhere. Being scared, you want to do it more. You want to understand things more. Having fear, it sogs up your energy. It sogs up everything. It sogs up your feelings, your emotions, your sensitivities. It takes that all away. All because you feel healthy with fear. Yeah, of course, if you feel healthy with fear, now you don't have to worry about emotions. So, of course, you know, bring the fear on. If you don't want emotions completely, gotcha. You know, I get it. You don't want to deal with emotions. But actually, fear is a worse emotion than any emotion you could have for somebody else. Any emotional love or something you have for somebody else, it's tons worse when you have fear. Because that fear exaggerates any element of what people do. Anything. You may exaggerate your feelings and emotions and sensitivities, but you don't act them out as much as you would when you're in fear. When you're in fear, it's not healthy, because then you automatically have an adjustment to yourself. So you don't stay yourself. You always change, because you have to be in fear. But if you're scared, you still change. You still understand things, but you don't change because of what the other person is doing. You change because of what you feel inside. Because it's an instinct to be scared. But it's not an instinct to say, well, instinct is fear. No, it's not. Instinct is being scared, is being afraid, but still being able to do something. I'm a ninja with my feelings. I show you them with no shadows. It does not mean you have to have a connection with them. You know, that's the one thing people don't understand, is that, oh, maybe this person wants a connection with their feelings toward me. But you do not have to accept them. That's your nervous attention to what you've learned of not showing emotions that you have to get over. You know, I was not taught that growing up, but you were. Which a lot of people were. A lot of people were taught, oh, don't show your emotions, don't show your feelings, don't show your sensitivities. So they automatically assume when somebody does, uh-oh, you know, they think that everybody was taught the same thing. But I wasn't. I was taught to completely show my emotions, feelings, sensitivities in one direction. When somebody brings up fate to me, I say, well, it's not privileged. Because most people don't like fate. Most people don't like fate. Because, oh no, I have to be with one person? That's their thing, their thought on it right away. Oh no, or they bring up what Neo said in the Matrix. Oh, well, I don't have control then. The Matrix taught us to be like Neo, except we don't fight anything else except when somebody says, oh, that's fate. That's it. That's the only thing we fight. And it's not even about like what a government does or anything. We've accepted that. Oh no, we're just like the Roman Empire. We're a democracy. We're going to fail too. It'll come. We accept that fate, yet the other fates we don't accept. Oh no, we can't accept those other fates. No, because we don't have control then. You already don't have control of what your government does, what the people in power do, what the world's governments or whoever is in power does. So to say you have power over your own life, that's a joke. You've already showed how much you give up your powers because of people who are greedy, and you think, oh well, it's not going to change. So then why don't you say that about fate? Who are you supposed to be with? Oh no, because I want individual fate. I want to be individually in control. Well, then be individually in control. You're in a system where you're controlled. You're not in a system where you're not controlled. Well, I can go watch my movies. I can go walking in the park. At what time? I can go on the beach and have a nice walk. At night? Or are there police there telling you can't be on this beach now? Let's see. So, when people say like, oh, this person has feelings for me, so I have to show my feelings to him. It's not true. That's an element people make up to try to defend for somebody else to get rid of their feelings. That's what people love to do. And that's their fear and insecurity right there. That's why I was saying fear isn't healthy. Because it pushes away what you can accept of others. And it's not even about like race or creed or anything else. When it comes down to it, the one thing that's most hated in this whole society now, in general, just in the world, is emotions. It's not race or a religious background. It's emotions. Because things are a lot easier and clear cut when you could just look at it with the race and religion. Oh, well, we need to destroy the rest of the world because they don't agree with us. Well, if you have to look at their emotions, you would have a harder time to say that. But you don't. All you have to do is look at what the radio and television has to say to you. You don't have to look at their emotions, their individual human emotions that are inevitably in all of us. And it makes us think a little deeper about, should we do this? But that's the whole point. That's where it comes from. That's where emotions, sensitivities, and feelings are. They don't come from, oh, some other door, and we could shut them off any time. Yeah, you can. But I don't know if that makes you a stronger person. That makes you a very weak person, because you can't even deal with your emotions. And to be honest, what I mean here is what I mean. If I have emotions for somebody or feelings in one direction towards somebody, it doesn't mean they have to have a connection to it. But if they're trying to put it down and say you have to feel this way about it, then it's gone, then I'm gone. It's not even about my feelings, because at that point you've not only disrespected me as an individual, you've now told me you can't have those feelings because I'm not connected to it. Well, but this isn't about you, is it? And that's what it comes down to. Is this about what the other person is feeling towards you having feelings toward them? No, it isn't. It's never about that. But if that's how you see it as, then you're not looking at what the other person is feeling toward you. You're looking at what you're feeling toward that person and ignoring what they're feeling. You don't need to completely connect to it, but you have to understand it. That's the difference. If you want everybody to feel the same way you do, or let's say somebody makes a phase of something, or somebody can turn on and off their emotions, that's completely fine. But you can't tell everybody else to do that. That's why a lot of people wouldn't want to connect to anybody else, because they're scared, they're afraid, they have the fear. If they're scared and afraid, at least they would do something. But if they have fear, they completely shut them down in the whole acknowledgement way, and it's gone. Like the sister in the sky, this is Marcello's answer to why. When you go back to the village, when you go back to the happening, if you want to watch those again, you'll see. The biggest thing people fear is emotions. And there you go. Those movies are great enactors of that. They're the idea that you scapegoat anybody because, oh, you're being emotional now. Yeah, but you were taught to not be emotional. You were taught to not agree with emotions. But yet you're guilting me out of something. You're guilting me out of something because it's easier for you. It makes your life easier. Bye-bye. You don't need me in your life, because if I don't make your life easier already, because I completely deal with things, then I wouldn't want to be in your life. Because if me being me makes you upset to deal with me, and makes you want to destroy the kind of feelings I have, then it's probably better that I'm gone. And in Pink Cloud Radio style, that's what happens. If you can't deal with it completely, I'm not telling you to agree with me, but if you have to disrespect me to the point of no return, black comedy style, I could use black comedy too. But I just don't want to. I don't want to waste my time with irritated sarcasm. This is a group collective. If you want to treat me like a stranger, then I am a stranger. Call it what you like. This is the detective format. Inside all of it, you can see everything. But if you don't want mystery in your life, and to accept it with being scared and afraid, and still moving towards it, then your fear is an action of your own grief. And it'll always be there. Love.